The other day, we had a Celtic treble winner who said that Rangers will not be a threat and that the takeover doesn't matter. Now today, we have another Celtic treble winner who is desperate for Brendan Rodgers to stay. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Football. Martin O'Neill, a guy that won a treble at Celtic, one of the best Celtic managers in the history of the club. Someone that, arguably could still be above Brendan Rodgers in terms of all-time Celtic greats. I think a lot of Celtic fans would probably actually put Martin O'Neill above Brendan Rodgers, considering he was the guy that kind of turned the tide and he won the treble not long after Rangers' dominance. So, I don't know, in an all-time list, is Martin O'Neill above Brendan Rodgers? What's your quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Martin O'Neill is. I think Martin O'Neill revolutionised Celtic. I think Brendan Rodgers just has managed Celtic through their best period, and it's not really just down to him.
Yeah, I think
Martin O'Neill
is he second place behind Jock Stein?
Well, before we get to that, I think Martin O'Neill he laid the foundations for every manager after him.
You can make that case, but Martin O'Neill he likes the foundations that Brendan Rodgers has laid.
Getting a wee bit nervous though, isn't he?
And he wants Brendan Rodgers to commit his future to the club. So obviously we know that Brendan Rodgers has only 12 months left on his current deal, and that there is plans for summer talks between Rodgers and Dermot Desmond about him extending his contract. But one man that actually didn't know about it was Martin O'Neill. He only recently realised that Brendan Rodgers was moving in to the last year of his contract. And when he sat down for an exclusive interview with Sun Sport to mark the 25th anniversary of his own Celtic appointment, the former gaffer urged his countryman to stay at Celtic and sign a contract extension. This is what Martin O'Neill had to say. He said, quote, "I wasn't aware that Brendan only had one more year to run on his contract, but I would have thought Celtic want to keep him at the club, and hopefully he would want to stay. He set a very good standard there. I'm also thinking that the brush he had with the Champions League would encourage him to give it another go in the next few years. I actually believe the new format suits Celtic. Going in again next season will give the players, staff, board and support something to look forward to, and I'd be hopeful that Brendan would want that for next season and the season after. With that in mind, I'd be really surprised if he didn't stay on. I certainly hope he does." End of quote. So O'Neill making it aware that he likes what Rodgers is doing. He likes the work that Rodgers has done, and he wants Rodgers to stay on at Celtic. He believes that Rodgers is the man to lead Celtic into the 2026-2027 season and beyond.
Right, Brendan Rodgers says he won't leave Celtic mid-season. As we know, most jobs are available mid-season when managers get sacked, right? So I think that automatically puts Brendan Rodgers between a rock and a hard place, because at best, unless he goes back on his word, the next opportunity for him to take another job that ain't Celtic will be this time next year, correct, right? Which therefore means the opportunities are going to be a bit limited.
You do say that, however, I mean, look at this season. There's an opening up at Spurs.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
I know it is rare, but sometimes it happens.
Are you telling me, right? If Tottenham sack Ange, which looks increasingly likely, by the way, coming in the next coming days, and they offer Brendan Rodgers the job, is he not taking it?
Well, Rodgers has said he will be here for the 3 seasons. He's guaranteed that. What I think would be...
I bet he said something along those lines the first time around.
What I think would be more tempting would be if he gets offered a good job towards the end of this upcoming season. Then, let's say in March, he gets offered a good Premiership team. Is he going to turn that down? If Celtic are way in front in the league, I mean, could he argue that his job's done, that he's technically fulfilled his 3 years because he's won 3 league titles? I don't know. I just think, like, for example, like, name a team, like, let's say, like, a level... or like a Newcastle or a Villa. I don't think those jobs will be available, but let's say they were, for example, and they're interested in Brendan Rodgers come next March. Is he going to refuse those jobs because he was adamant that he will see out 3 full seasons. I think the fact that Brendan Rodgers hasn't committed himself longer to the club, that kind of tells me that he doesn't see his long-term future at Celtic.
I agree, right? And also, a big problem for Brendan Rodgers as well would be the fact that, say he gets to March, April time, like you say he agrees to go to like Newcastle at the end of this season. What's the last 3 months going to be like from Celtic fans? Knowing their manager's leaving them and he's left them high and dry again. Are they going to be pissed? What's the atmosphere like?
Of course they're going to be pissed.
So that's the problem for Rodgers. But I think he will see out the year, but it depends on what happens in terms of job offers.
Yeah, O'Neill also went on to speak about Rangers and how them being better could make the league better and make Celtic better. He said, quote, I spoke to Graham Souness about this just the other day. I was saying how Rangers need to get their act together, for want of a better expression. I genuinely believe them being strong helps Celtic. Obviously, they are looking for a manager, and that will be the start of making them inroads. There's also been big talk about investment. In a one-off game, Rangers have proved they can beat Celtic, but can they find the consistency required? Can they go away from home and win matches they are expected to maybe win? That hasn't happened in the last couple of years with this team. End of quote. So, I think that a stronger Rangers should result in a stronger Celtic, because Celtic will need to improve. If Rangers get better, the Celtic fans will demand that their club gets better too.
And therefore, the better they get in Europe.
I think if you see Rangers, if Rangers are spending 20 million, 25 million in a transfer window every season, the Celtic fans will be saying, we need to get that war chest out and match them.
Well, apparently for every pound that's spent, Celtic are going to spend 20, so we'll have to wait and see if they'll be true to their word on that regard. But Martin O'Neill panicking here. I wouldn't say it's panicking. I mean, well, let's just say theoretically Rodgers leaves, right? Whether it's now or next season, who do you see getting the Celtic job? Are Celtic going to go for like an Ancelotti? Are they going to go for a Knutson? Are they going to get Ange back? What are they going to do?
Tell you what, I think they'd take Ange. If Ange is still unemployed in a year's time,
I think they would,
I think they would take Ange. I do think Rodgers will move on at the end. I think he will move on after the 3 years.
Yeah, I think he'll move on. It depends. So,
if he's going to stay, it will be announced over the next 2 months.
What would you?
I don't think that he will go into, if he goes into the current, if he goes into next season with his certainty, with his future unsure, then to me he's leaving.
What about, right, he's there next season and Celtic are trailing Rangers in the league by 5 points in February, and he gets offered a job? Or do you feel like if he was trailing Rangers he wouldn't be getting offered a job? What do you think? Yeah. What would he do then? I think he'd be getting hounded out.
I think that he would need to stay. If he left Celtic while trailing Rangers in the league, then that's a pretty damning blow there, brother.
Listen, if he gets to March next season and he's 17 points ahead and his contract runs out at the end of the year and he leaves, it's like, I couldn't really blame him. I know he said he'll stay the 3 years, but I mean, at that point he's already got the league wrapped up, hasn't he?
True. Right, I think that's where we're going to wrap this up as well. Martin O'Neill, could he dip his toes into management one more time? I'm going to say no. As for Brendan Rodgers, I think even if next season goes tits up, he'd still get a decent job.
It's kind of weird though how players and managers aren't held to the same standards. You know, players move on all the time, and it's kind of considered alright. But manager moves on, and
yeah,
I get it. Players can maybe only move on in transfer windows, and
could be forced to.
And maybe they can.
I mean, a bid gets accepted for Tierney, and he goes. You know, I guess he could always say no at the end of the day. But with Rodgers, it's it's a weird one. But I think he'll be there next season, full campaign.
But also, it's Rodgers left, and Celtic still went on to do the treble, and then they've done the treble the next season. It's not like Rodgers leaving cost them the league title, or Rodgers leaving cost them the treble.
But did it cost them the 10? Some people will argue that.
Yeah, but that's not on fucking Rodgers. You can't blame Rodgers for that.
Yeah, you can, but people would say if Rodgers stayed, they'd have done it. That's the argument.
Well, I think that's on the Celtic board, not on Rodgers.
It's on Dermot Desmond and all those plonkers.
Alright, so anyway, I don't think you can blame Rodgers at all for that.
Here, if Rodgers wants to leave this summer and the Celtic board want to mess up next season,
Here,
go ahead.
if Rodgers left and maybe he was only 5 points in front and they brought a new manager in and Rangers overturned the league title and that was when they were going for 10 in a row, then I'd be like, we know what, he kind of left them high and dry. But he left and Celtic still went on to win the treble that season. Then they went on to win another treble the season after. So, I mean, 2 seasons later, you can't point the finger at Brendan Rodgers and go, it's his fault.
No, absolutely not. But anyway, that's where we're at, man. Brendan, what will happen? We'll have to wait and see.
Alright, till next time. Peace.